Welcome to the Love Government. I'm Dennis Leary, and we are doing this series of videos called Sex Cards. We are on the last, final card. Now, it's the 52nd card of the series. This card deck has 52 cards, and this is the 52nd card. It's called the High card. It occurs up here, up at the top, along with the Holy card and the Wild card. But it's the High card because it's the 52nd card, the highest card in the deck. So if you are playing a card game with this deck, which you can play. This is a playing deck also. Instead of having 13 levels and 4 suits, like a regular playing deck here in the States, we have 7 suits and 7 levels with 3 cards at the top. It's just arranged differently, but it is a playing card deck. You can play a card game with this deck, which indicates that life is a game. It's a play. It's a dramatic type of play, hopefully a comedy more than a tragedy, and it's also a playground. So looking back now over all the cards, we see that it's a game. We're playing something, like a child. This card is called the Lover card, as all of the cards are called Lover, but this is called specifically the Lover card because the lover is like a child at play. Just think of children who play. They're conscious only of the playing. In fact, they are the playing. They'd rather play than do anything else. The mother calls, "Time to come home and eat." Do they want to go home and eat? No. What if they're hungry? Do they want to go home and eat? Well, maybe. But no, usually they want to keep playing. They got to play, 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 play. So this card is about the lover as a player, as a child. And this card actually portrays a child with a bird, letting a bird go, as if the child is a bird. And there are birds up in the sky. The child is like a bird, because the child can play around like birds. Birds seem to play, and they sing. Birds are singers. The old traditions, the old cultures, had a couple of examples of this, what I'm talking about. I'll take the one from the Christian Bible. Jesus, who was a child himself, came in as a child in a manger, born in a manger. He was poor, and yet he was the King of the world, the beloved of the Father. So he came as a child, a little child, and a poor child at that. So the child is considered kind of the epitome of love, because in the childhood stage it doesn't get all mixed up with sexuality. Well, the child is sexual, but it's a more pure type of sexuality. Anyway, the Bible says that, Jesus said, if you want to get to heaven, if you want to get to the kingdom of heaven, you've got to become like a little child, or you won't get there. And he was a child himself at heart, because he attracted children to them in the Bible stories. Women and children. He hung around with women and children. Did he hang around with the elites of the society? No, I don't think so. Not much. He had a few friends that were from the elites, but he really loved the children and their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts and uncles. So that's the first quality, is be like a child. If you're going to get to the kingdom of love, we be like a child. The other example that was used was the birds, which appear in this card. Here, the bird is flying out of the hand of the little boy. And the birds appear sometimes when they're least expected. And the words of the culture of that time put in the mouth of Jesus was that if you're going to get to the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like the birds. Because they don't worry about where they're going to get their food. They're just flying around. They get their food by eating seeds or whatever. They don't worry about it. And they don't worry about clothing. And they don't worry about housing. And they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to join the army. If they're caught in the middle of a war or something, they fly away. They don't get bothered about it. They're free to fly away. So that was two examples of child and a bird, and these both appear in this card as the high card. The two polarities here are poor and pure. This 52nd card is about the purity of love. If we're pure in love, then we are the true lover. Because we have a certain purity about us, and we experience that. There's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's childlike quality. And we can also be wise and educated and knowledgeable about the world. But if we have that purity inside of us, it is like a sacred quality that's priceless. You can't buy it. You can't buy love, and you can't buy this type of purity. You can only experience it as it comes to you when you set up the conditions for it to arrive. The other side of the card is called poor. Again, in the Bible, and this is, I'm telling you, the Bible is based on pagan storytelling, and the pagan storytelling is based on the love culture storytelling. So in the story, you've got an important person speaking about what is truthful in the society. And in that Christian culture, the very first blessing, or beatitude as they call it, is, "Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven." Now that's a culturally conditioned way of saying something, but if you generalize it, universalize it, what is it saying? It's saying, blessed are the poor. Not blessed are the poverty-stricken. Not blessed are the bums on Skid Row. Not blessed are the people bombed by a drone or something. But blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom, which is everything. So love of the poor is one of the defining characteristics of love. In our culture today, what's happening? The elites, and not just the elites, but the mass of us, which is all of us, are creating conditions for poverty. We are creating conditions by which millions of people suffer and die and are tortured under terrible conditions. That's poverty. Because we're not living poorly. Poor in a good sense. Poor in the sense of simplicity, getting along with as least amount of things that you can have, not seeking the most. That means you can't have things according to what we need for our work. We might need a car, we may need a house, we may need equipment. But we're not overdoing it. We're not unbalanced. We're simple, we're poor in our attitude, we're poor, we love the poor. And if we truly love that simplicity of lifestyle, natural-based, getting back to a simple life in nature, that's very, very healthy, by the way. then we're being true lovers. Otherwise, we're being fakers. And how that shows up today is this mad gold rush for money and power and pornographic pleasure, trying to grab things, trying to get sex, trying to have sex, trying to get, climb the pyramid thing. This is not what the true loving is about, which is being about poor and simple and loving the poor. In the love government, we do it by analyzing and addressing the structure. If the structure is creating poverty and misery, then we need to address it as a structural problem. The structure itself is causing the misery. And then, if you take care of the structure, but that means study, that means discipline, that means attention to the general picture and attention to the details, because the devil is in the details. And the details are in the handbook, the 5 things that I keep mentioning and that I'm going to mention. We'll go into more detail in another track called the Sex Signs. The handbook is a sign, and I've alluded to it a lot, but there's very practical applications of things that all of us are doing to create poverty on the one hand, misery for that type of a poverty-stricken poor person, and on the other hand, creating conditions by which the elites rise to the top of an unstable pyramid and also are miserable and poverty-stricken, even though they're surrounded by millions, billions of dollars in the United States way of looking at it. In the United States, you know, we've got like hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands, I think it's thousands, of millionaires now. And like 2,000 billionaires just in the United States. And the United States has 40% of those rich people. And I'm speaking from the United States. The system is out of whack, to say the least. Any child, any person with a grain of intelligence or sanity can say the system is out of whack. It's not working. It's unjust. It's cruel. It's death-dealing. It's suffering inclined and prone, both at the top and the bottom. This is a pyramid system like this. The top people are miserable. They're turning themselves into robots, machines of greed. Even though they live in a castle, they're still miserable. We know that because of the drug problem they have and because of all the suicides they have. And so on. So the love government then is in the position of doing something to help, and we love the poor. We love being poor in a good sense, not poverty-stricken, but poor, simple, pure in that sense. So we leave you then, or I leave myself, or finish up this whole 52 episode as a new beginning. So we're not done. We can start the whole process over, and we do. We go through this house many, many times. We go through our lives many, many times. Every day is a new day. We go to sleep, we wake up to a new day. And that is what purifies us. That gets us into a state called poor, where we are rich. We might look poor, we may not have a whole lot of things, but we can be rich in love, and that's where we're going. Thank you then for being on this journey with us, and once again we make the final love sign here, which is the sign of the circle, sign of the oval, in the name of the lover, the mother and the father, woman. Woman. Love, love, and more love. Thank you.